bit about yourself. Go on.
Well,
Go on.
What would you like me to
And
say?
I'll add on, because this is, look, you've done an awful lot. Right, here we go. Shall I read it?
Go on then,
Go on
you
then.
start.
Miranda Browne achieved widespread acclaim as a finalist on the first series of the BBC's Great British Bake Off, when Mary Berry remarked that Miranda reminded her of herself. Now that is a bit of a compliment, isn't it, from old Mary Berry?
Careful on the old.
It is a bit like that. I'm out of striking distance at the moment, okay? Mind of I haven't finished. Of herself when she was younger, and said that her biscuits were completely beautiful. So that's nice, isn't it? Such was the success of the programme and the popularity of its stars that the BBC Two commissioned a second series from August 2011, in addition to a one-off programme which you all know about for the Royal Wedding Week. The Great British Wedding Cake, which featured the 3 finalists from the first series. Right, since then, what have you been doing? Come on.
So I've published a cookbook called Biscuit. Fantastic load of recipes all about why biscuits are so great and why, as being British, we should celebrate biscuits as well as the wonderful American cookies. And I like using produce in my baking, so there's a few recipes in there, one of which we've tweaked and changed and done as a special for today. And then I've just written another cookery book called Bake My Cake as Fast as You Can, which is going to be out this August, which is also published by Ebury. And it's all about cakes that fit in with people and their busy lives, basically, and believing that there's always time to make a cake. And I do spend a lot of my time juggling 3 small children and working and cakes and baking and doing this kind of thing. And I'm a big believer that we can demystify cake baking and get everybody in the kitchen and making cakes.
And you're planning a programme of exciting baking events for the National Trust.
Yeah, I've been doing some stuff with the National Trust. They're always lovely kitchens to work in. And I also do some work with Arga and with Kenwood with the mixers. And yeah, now I'm generally fairly busy all the time.
And I've just signed her up to another show.
You have, that's fantastic.
Hey.
But one of the things I think is fascinating, the other thing that I've done is that my previous life I was working for Marks and Spencer's as a food buyer, so it's quite interesting being here on the other side of everything that's going on, so that's interesting as well. But what we're going to make today is some blackberry crumble biscuits, and I'm a great believer that you can use fresh produce straight away, immediately, without any preparation. So it sometimes frustrates me that with lots of recipes you've got to puree and stew the rhubarb before you put it in the cake, and I think it's nice to have a few recipes up your sleeve where you can just chop or put the ingredients straight in without having to think about it. So this is a really quick, lovely and easy recipe. So if you come back from blackberry picking, or you've been to get your blackberries, in our house if you've been blackberry picking you usually think you've got a whole big tub full, but by the time you get back there's usually a lot less than you'd remembered. So this is also a great recipe to use if you've got like a punnet of blackberries in the fridge that you want to use up, or you've just got a few handfuls of blackberries. And also I think it's probably quicker than, if you're trying to do pastry and blackberry pies, that kind of thing. This same recipe, if you've got the recipe cards, you can also use, I do it with things like rhubarb, and the rhubarb you can chop in raw from a stick of rhubarb, and that's also quite
We're just giving out the recipe cards.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
There you go, recipe cards for you guys.
So,
have a little read.
I think that some people are a little bit fearful of making biscuits. I think they're a bit worried about getting them perfect, but biscuits are actually a lot more forgiving than cakes. Cakes, if you open the oven to take a peek, they sink in the middle and then you've got to come up with some way to recover them, or they're soggy and they haven't cooked through. Whereas with biscuits, if you take them out a little bit too soon, you can actually pop them back in for a bit longer. And also they're really quick, you can have them ready in 10 minutes. And these are a lovely one that you can have with a mug of coffee or a mug of tea. You can also have them as a pudding, with a nice dollop of ice cream or with a bit of clotted cream, and just something quick and easy that you can make literally when you come in the door. So, biscuits, like cakes, I always use unsalted butter. And with your cakes, if you're using a creaming method, or with your biscuits, this is a recipe that you use the creaming method. You need to make sure your butter is really, really soft. One of the problems that people often have with cakes and biscuits is that they get an oiliness, like coming out of the biscuit, and that's often because their butter's really hard. So it needs to be really, really squidgy. We're fine, because obviously it's nice and warm here. And you could make this in a mixer, but I'm literally just going to make it with a wooden spoon. So we've got really soft butter, and then I'm using Demerara sugar. I just like the sort of crunchiness and the texture that it gives to these biscuits. The kind of of sugar that you use in biscuits really does make a difference. It actually makes more of a difference really than even the different types of sugar in cakes. And if
While you talk.
I don't know if I can talk and not do something.
I'll do it again. Give yourself away.
Nice treat. Yeah, keep an eye on it. But if you use the wrong type of sugar, your biscuits will be affected by it, because sugars have different levels of dryness or different levels of moisture in it. So with this one, we're going to get a nice sort of crunchy texture, but it's also quite soft inside. If we used a white caster sugar, these biscuits would be rock hard, and it just does make quite a difference, and it is worth considering that if you're raiding the cupboards and you haven't got quite the right sugar. The next question will always be, so would I make them with the different sugar? I would, but I might not cook them for so long. So, how are you getting on there?
What's your favourite biscuit?
Well, someone's just said to me out of the bag, that's not a biscuit, it hasn't got chocolate on, and I have to say I'm a bit like that. I do really love chocolate biscuits.
Chocolate biscuits?
Chocolate digestives, dipped into a mug of tea, have got me through lots of things in life. What about you?
Do you know what? I'm not fussed. As long as it's food, I'll eat it.
You were craving these earlier. We had to keep
I know.
Oh, it's looking lovely. Okay,
But your biscuits are lovely.
So, when we say cream it together, we really need to make sure it's all properly combined. And I always think this is the bit that you don't want to skip. Can you see how lovely and soft it is? And sometimes in books it says things. Can you see?
What do you think of the biscuits? Thumbs up? Yeah, they're delicious.
I'm not reaching already. I feel like I'm going to catch up now. No pressure. We're going to add 1 egg. It's another good reason for making biscuits is if you haven't got many eggs in, or someone's just helpfully done scrambled eggs for breakfast and there's only one left in the egg bowl, then actually you can still make something homemade. Whereas obviously with a cake, you often need to have more eggs than that. So I often think that's quite nice to be able to have something homemade, even if you haven't got a huge amount in the house.
And having the fresh fruit on top is delicious.
Well, it's lovely. I mean, when I make it with the rhubarb, I just chop it in raw and fold it into the mixture.
Lovely.
But with the blackberries, if you do that, you end up with blue biscuits. So I didn't think that was hugely appealing, and these look much prettier. So what we're going to do is, once we've made the biscuit dough, we're going to bake the biscuits, and then we're going to make them for about 10 minutes, take them out, and we're going to put the blackberries and some crumble on top. So anyhow, carry on with this. So make sure your eggs also properly incorporated.
Lovely.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Good, thank you. Okay, we're going to add some vanilla extract.
It was quite funny because, as you were saying, Miranda was saying earlier, this year I did the big cake show with Paul Hollywood and Mary Berry and all that. And I was running the show, and it was quite funny with Mary Berry because when she came on, people love her to bits. They absolutely love her. And within 20 minutes, she had sold 750 books.
No pressure.
Just like that. Just gone. It was incredible. And I stole her birthday cake. I did it.
What's that?
It was her birthday, and I took the whole cake home, and I ate it.
Did you leave your rental size?
I didn't. No, she told us that I could have it.
The other thing with baking is it's really useful to have some measuring spoons.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but if you just guess, you do get very different results. And anyone who's watched the Bake Off will know Paul's obsession with making sure you've got absolutely accurate measuring. But digital scales and measuring spoons are 2 of my absolute favourites to have. Would you agree?
Yep.
Baking, it makes a real difference. And then this biscuit's going to have plain flour, but it's also going to have a raising agent. And what we're going to use is bicarbonate of soda. Biscuits react differently to different raising agents, but for this biscuit, when I was testing them from when I wrote my book, this was the best way to get the lift and the little bit of puffiness that we're going to get that you've seen.
How many recipes have you got in the book like that? Have you got lots? Are they all biscuits?
Well,
Is it a total-
my book
You
is
said
called
it was biscuits.
just called Biscuit, and it's got about 110 recipes, just
Brilliant.
biscuits.
Sounds
We ate
wonderful.
a lot of biscuits that year.
Where can you buy it from?
All
All good.
book retailers.
Yeah, that's what I say. All good retailers.
And then what I'm going to add is some orange zest. Orange zest is a really clever ingredient with fruits like blackberries and rhubarb. It really brings out the flavour. So I'm going to put some of that in as well. I'm also going to add some of that to the crumble topping. Now, when people are making biscuits, at this point, they usually get in a panic because I think it looks too dry. So what they do is they just add a bit more milk or a bit more egg, and then it's too wet. Okay, so always push on through the dryness before you make a decision to add anything else.
That's a good tip because you're dead right there.
So,
Dead
such
right.
a common mistake. When I teach people glasses and things. People are adding stuff in because they think they haven't done it right. And it does make a big difference. If you make it in the mixer, or if you've got a food processor, it'll come together much quicker. But if you're making it by hand, you need a bit more warmth, don't you?
Can you see the texture of this, guys? You can't really, can you? Can I show them?
No, see how dry it is.
Show how dry it is, because people want to. Can you see how dry that is? Let's show you, because that's easier, isn't it? If you can actually see it, it makes life easier, and then you know what we're going on about, because I know you can't see. Everybody got that? Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Return my biscuits. Oh, fine.
Great.
There we go. And you need a bit of energy. We used to make lots of the cakes by hand on the bake-off, and actually you need to have a bit of energy going into your mixture. It's coming together really nicely as a dough.
As if by magic.
There it is.
Oh, very nice bird.
I think we've got 750 copies here today. There we go. So, if I hadn't been talking, you can see how very quick that would have been. Come together like a really nice dough. And if you're doing it now with rhubarb or a tiny bit of chopped apple, you could just fold that in raw now. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is I've got a baking tray. Now, with biscuits, the kind of baking tray that you use is really important. You need to have low sides. This is obviously sideless. But if you have a big roasting tin, the air doesn't circulate properly, and that's often a problem that people have with biscuits, so that they just don't cook through properly. You need to get the air and the heat in the oven all the way around them, underneath and on top. So baking paper is also really critical with biscuits, because lots of people have a problem with biscuits sticking. So always just make sure you've got your baking paper on as well.
There's some lovely biscuits in here. I love the hot cross biscuits.
Hot cross biscuits, yeah.
And we got the rhubarb crumble biscuits.
Ah, that's what this one's
the M&M Maltesers biscuits. Now we're talking, aren't we?
Now, if you want all your biscuits to be perfect in size, quite a good way to use it is a little ice cream scoop or one of your tablespoon measures. Just means that even if you can't get it out neatly, because I'm not going to be able to because it's not an ice cream scoop, you still get about the same amount in each biscuit. And then you can just make it into a little ball and press it down. Now, with biscuits, if you want to make them bigger, just make them a bit thinner. Biscuits actually do cook even if they're quite thick. Depends how neat and tidy you like them. If you don't worry about them all looking regimented, then you can just dollop them on. That's fine. There we go. And this mixture makes about 12. More if you make them smaller, obviously. It just depends how you sort of like it. Okay.
Very nice.
Is that neat enough? Quite neat.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you don't mind. So the blackberries, they're tangy, so it's a really nice, exchange of flavors with the sweet cookie and the blackberry. So if you have a really, really sweet fruit, do you have to adjust the amount of sugar that you put in the recipe?
Well, it depends how fiddly you want to be. Okay. I find that this same recipe works really well with the rhubarb as well, and obviously that's really sharp, and you're adding any extra sugar for that. Okay. It just seems to be quite a good one to sort of complement. I think perhaps because it's the brown sugar as well. I don't know. Just I wouldn't tweak the sugar I put in the recipe because you might then affect the mixture. What I would tweak maybe is putting a bit less sugar in the topping for the crumble. That might be the way to do it. Right, here we go. So, what you need to do is, I won't do a whole tray because you're just watching me roll out little balls of sticky dough, is we need to then pop those in the oven like that, about 10 minutes. If you may do a bit smaller, put them in for about 8 and check them. So, we're going to pop them in. Never put biscuits really high at the top of an oven. If you put them really high, then obviously they're going to burn before they cook. And another really critical thing with biscuits is make sure that you put them into an oven that is preheated. I know everyone says that about cakes, but with biscuits it's about the most common mistake that people make. You'll see people say to you, well, I made biscuits but it looks more like a tray bake because it's all spread out. And that's because frequently, that's either because they haven't measured correctly, or more likely because they put them into an oven that is warming up, so the biscuits melt before they cook, which is, when you think about it, logical, but people often don't think about that. And if your oven's a bit unreliable, then pop in an oven thermometer and then you'll know it's exactly the right temperature. Thank you. Then while they're in the oven, you just want to make a tiny bit of crumble. So when I was weighing up earlier, you actually really need cold butter for this, it's got a bit warm. What we're going to do is just put a little bit of butter, like you would make a normal crumble, with a little bit of plain flour again, and then just rub it together. When you weigh this out, what's quite a good thing to do is to put it in the fridge. so that you've got the colder butter at the point you need it. And just literally like you're making your scones or your crumble or whatever you make, if you've got a food processor, if you don't mind washing up the bowl, then stick it in and whiz it in the food processor and it'll be done in about 10 seconds. It's a bit.
So what's next on the plate for you? What's your plan?
Well, I've got my Bake Your Cake as Fast as You Can coming out in August.
Fantastic.
I just filmed a really exciting baking DVD.
Great.
Teaching a secret celebrity how to bake an afternoon tea in a rather gorgeous house in Wiltshire, which was beautiful.
Lovely.
And very blessed with sunshine when we filmed all of it. I'm doing a bit more filming that I've got some meetings about at the end of this week. And yeah, just sort of teaching.
So it's all going well?
Yeah, doing some classes at home.
Great.
Yeah, so there's your crumble. I'm adding a bit of caster sugar into here, as well as the demerara sugar. And you could be quite creative with this as well. You could add in some really nice chopped hazelnuts, or if you're really liking, if you really like almonds, a few crushed up flaked almonds or walnuts to give it a real texture on top of the biscuit. I just think it's nice to have sort of variations on things and be able to put your own personal twist, particularly if you're using fresh produce. You know, you might really, really like hazelnuts with blackberries. I think that's a particularly good combination. I always put that when I make a blackberry crumble, I always put loads of chopped hazelnuts on the top as well. I just think it adds a sort of bit of a difference. And when you've got so many lovely ingredients, you know, why not use them? It's just sort of a great way to do it. So, these cook for 10 minutes, and then you take them out when they look a bit like this. Okay, you're just literally going to take them out, and we've got our lovely blackberries here. We've actually got some crumble that's been in the fridge, so I'm going to give you that one.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wipe my hands, do it very clean. So literally just whip them out of the oven, and then all we're going to do, and these ones are obviously cooler because I didn't want you to have to wait for me to cook them. If your blackberries are huge, then chop them up a little. But if they're ones you've picked, they might be a bit smaller. So you might want to just pop them on whole, or it just depends really whether they're sort of seasonal or not. It also works beautifully with little raspberries, or you could put some kind of red currants on top maybe.
Is there anything seasonal really?
Yeah, just
seasonal berries?
It's quite nice because you don't need a huge number of them as well. You know, if you've just got a few little bits and bobs. I think it really shows that you've sort of put a bit of a personal touch on it, don't you? The other thing that I do a lot of is if you want a bit of cheats baking tips, is when you make your mixture, make the dough, make a double amount of dough.
Yeah.
And make up all the little balls of dough and put them on a tray like this, freeze them, and then put them all in a little food bag once they're frozen. And then you can cheat, so you can have them ready, whole big bag of little balls of dough in the freezer, pop them in the tray, bake them from frozen, just add another minute or so to the baking time, and then you're ready to go. So then you look a real sort of show off when friends come around and you can have biscuits that are just ready to go in the oven. There we go. So a few on the top. Now obviously if these were still warm, these would be sinking in a little bit now. Okay. And then we're literally, I'm going to use my already mucky hands, going to sprinkle a little bit of the crumble on top.
Am I allowed to give out small biscuits in a minute?
Yeah.
I've got small biscuits if anybody would like another one.
Should have done some going home bags.
All we need is a nice cup of tea, really, don't we?
I don't know, have you not got the kettle on over?
Sorry, I forgot to put the kettle on.
Honestly. There we go. And then what we're going to do is once the crumble's on, and I know I'm making a bit of a mess, but actually I was laughing earlier on because all the crumble that had cooked on the tray was scraping into a little jar, so I thought it would be quite nice to keep putting on ice cream. There we go.
Shall I go and give some of these out?
Yeah. Okay, there were mine here, so I'm going to get those out. The other one, I just made those.
Sorry.
So literally like that, so it takes you, you know, no more than a minute. Pop them back in the oven.
Yeah. Let's do it properly.
I'm going to make it.
We're warming them for you. Because I've been told off. Make sure I warm them.
That wasn't intelligible. There we go. Well, funny that's what we're seeing from the tray.
I know. I'll do that for you. Do you want to go and give them that?
There we go. So there we are, that's the finished. And how about, this is amazing, new ingredient I've discovered today, blackberry flowers. You have to smell that one. Have you smelled it? Because when you open the packet, they smell of blackberries.
Can we give someone to try? Try a blackberry, they're lovely.
Really, but they smell amazing. They
Oh, wow.
smell like fresh black currants. Look, there we go. Wow.
Which is what it's about, to eat everything, isn't it?
You just have to smell that, it's amazing. Oh, is it? Oh,
They're
you know
really
what I'm-
good, aren't they?
I just can't get over the smell of them though.
I've never seen them before.
I'll try. Amazing. I was going to sprinkle some on.
Shall I pass it around a bit? Right, put some in there. Come on, put some in there. Have a flower. Well, she doesn't. We've been having a bit of fun.
To know each other.
We have. You got it though, don't you? You know. Have another one.
Oh, biscuit. There are plenty of biscuits. You'll have one. Oh, well done.
Are these warm now?